remember when I said it wasn't gonna get any better? Yeah, I meant that. We have 2 more books again today, and on the chopping block we have The Battle of Jericho by Sharon M. Draper, along with Among the Hidden by Margaret Patterson Haddix. And these books are heavy emotionally speaking. The Battle of Jericho more than Among the Hidden, I feel. So like last time, I'm gonna dive into the heavy hitter first, so let's go ahead and talk about The Battle of Jericho. The Battle of Jericho was published in 2003, and I remembered the cover of this book, but I couldn't remember the name of the book, and it took some digging for me to find it. The Battle of Jericho is an experience. It's about a 16-year-old boy named Jericho as he navigates high school, as well as his budding membership to a club called the Warriors of Distinction, and together with his friends Kofi and cousin Josh, they are selected to help out with this club's holiday toy drive. They have the backing of the school and everything, so it seems very innocent on the surface. Anyway, with the confidence boost that Jericho got from being recognized by the club, it helped him ask out this girl he likes named Ariel. She seems sweet and actually seems to like Jericho. However, I don't feel like she would like Jericho if he wasn't involved in the club, if you know what I mean. And honestly, everything feels really off from the jump for me. I don't remember anything about this book going back into it, but the vibes were just off. Especially when the boys are at the mall and when they run into one of the warrior leaders, he tells them that the boys need to steal 2 ornaments each for the charity Christmas tree. Of course, Jericho does ask why they can't just buy them, and he's told to do as he's told, and the boys steal the ornaments. That's just the fucking beginning. Though equal parts badassery for challenging gender norms and dumbassery for wanting to be a part of this, there's also a girl named Dana pledging this fucking cult. The problem is Kofi likes Dana, and one of the warriors, Eddie, he 1, does not like the fact that a girl is pledging, and 2, he is mad that she would not go out with him and made it his personal mission to make her pledge week absolute hell. So news travels that Jericho is pledging, and one day after school, Jericho is talking to a teacher named Mr. Boston. This teacher tells Jericho about how he used to play football back in his home state for 1 year, and the reason he only did it for that 1 year was because of hazing rituals that occurred during the initiation week that the coach turned a blind eye to. Jericho doesn't see the severity of that situation, so the teacher kind of goes a little bit more in depth, explaining how he was forced to walk blindfolded and naked onto the football field to be verbally berated by other students. Obviously, the teacher has his reasons for saying this, and it's that rumors spread about the Warriors' pledge week. Jericho gets in his feelings when all the teacher wants is for him to be careful. Jericho should not have taken that teacher's advice so lightly, because in the following week, he is subjected to things including but not limited to forced physical activity like running laps until they are exhausted, making them strip, act like dogs, and I'm talking like collars, leashes, the whole shebang, restraining them and forcing them to eat gross things like pick a jar, and one of them has spaghetti and meatballs, the other one has earthworms. Oh, and here's my personal favorite, dumpster diving for small firearms. Yeah, sucking the pledge master's raggedy ass toes. For fuck's sake, Sharon, things get progressively worse. Pledge week seems to fall on an important trumpet competition for Jericho, and it's important because it might get Jericho into Juilliard, which in my opinion is the better option. When the music teacher confronts Jericho about this, Jericho says that the club is the most important thing to ever happen to him, for a chance to look on the inside instead of looking in from the out. My dude, you have friends, you are an athlete, you are a star musician at school. What the hell are you talking about? I'm pretty sure he's making excuses because he admitted shortly before this that he's not even sure why he's doing this anymore. This gets a million times worse when he tells his dad he's choosing the club over Juilliard as well. Jericho says he has to do this to keep Ariel, which to a sane adult is fucking idiotic. His dad tries to tell him that going through all of this for a girl is in fact idiotic, but Jericho doesn't want to listen. Again, I'm very confused on why he felt the need to do this. It's never stated before that he was an outcast. The worst thing said about Jericho before all of this was that he was nervous talking to girls. He had a chance to go to either Juilliard or play football in college. It's not clicking for me. The last couple of days are where things escalate. We are on day 4 of 5 of Pledge Week, and this doesn't have a happy ending. The final 2 days of pledging are the real meat and potatoes of this book, where the message slaps you in the face and demands that you listen. Now, earlier I mentioned that there was a girl there for all of this. Her name is Dana. She's with Kofi, and one of the pledge masters, Eddie, has it out for her because she rejected him. Now, the entire time, he's been the one dishing out her trials. I don't really want to talk about the gritty details of what he did to her because, honestly, I cried. All this girl did was say no to going out with him when he asked, and she was subjected to abuse and harassment that was far worse than the others. I know this video is supposed to be a deep dive into these books, but I can't go into that. The day after, they all rally behind Dana saying that if she wants out, they will all dip, which makes Jericho happy because at this point he wants out. But she decides to stand her ground, basically out of sheer spite, and I could never. Anyway, on to the final night of pledging. All the pledges are sitting in a circle and they're asked to pass around dumb stuff like a brick and a mirror with some dumb message about brotherhood. But then they're asked to pass around a gun to signify their power. What? As dumb as it is, this is preferable to what is to come. The pledge masters get them drunk and make them run, and then drink some more when they start to sober up. All of this because it's a leap of faith time. If you've played Assassin's Creed, you know exactly where this is going. If you don't know where this is going, they make all of these boys jump out of the window of an abandoned house. One boy broke his arm, and everyone else for all intents and purposes is fine, except for when it's Josh's turn to jump. Josh jumps, and he didn't land on the bale of hay. Josh passes away from his injuries, and a shitstorm ensues. Obviously, once police and parents get involved, they demand answers. Except that asshat of a teacher that was supposed to be in charge of them had to admit to a horde of angry parents that he was not there and that the activities were team building. Don't worry though, that teacher and some of the seniors, including Eddie, were eventually arrested and the Warriors of Distinction are no more. There is a second book where it talks about Jericho and Josh's girlfriend November as they try to deal with life without him. I don't think I'm going to read that book. I know I didn't read it as a kid, but honestly, with how bleak this particular book was, I don't think I can handle anymore. Now, I know that book was a lot to take in, and our next book is still a lot, but hopefully it's not as emotionally heavy. Among the Hidden was published in 1998, and it is about a 12-year-old boy who was born in the world where the population is heavily regulated by the government. In this world, women are criticized for having kids. I'm talking about propaganda saying pregnant women are worse than criminals. And if you have a third child, they are taken away and no one knows what happened, but it is heavily implied that the children are killed. They say that this is to avoid famine, but I and everyone else seems to severely doubt that. Anyway, we follow a boy called Luke, who is a third child. He is forced to live within the confines of his home and his isolated backyard. His backyard, unfortunately, does not stay isolated forever. Luke was perfectly semi-content living his life when he is told that he can no longer go into his backyard or outside at all anymore. His family land is being demolished to build houses. More people means Luke has to be even more careful. The problem is that his parents become overly paranoid, which I can understand to a degree, but there's a line where it feels like Luke isn't even living. Think about it. This kid can't go to school. He can't make friends. He can't even go outside. His life is reduced to 4 other people, and his parents are so paranoid that he can't even eat dinner with his parents and older brothers anymore. He sits on the stairs watching them, almost hating himself for being born. Unfortunately, things don't get any better for Luke when his mother, the only person that really checks on him throughout the day, is forced to get a job. And she has to get a job because the government told them that they can't have their pig farm anymore. His dad is clearly on edge about that situation, so when he comes home one day to see that Luke did the dishes and tried to bake bread, he's pissed. Mind you, it was cold. All the windows and blinds were shut. There's no way anyone could have seen him, but his dad still bites his head off about it. The poor kid just wanted to do something that wasn't just sitting on the stairs or in the attic doing nothing. They're worried so much about preserving his life that they aren't thinking about his quality of life. He has nothing, and even his brothers pick on him. The kid has absolutely nothing until one day he caught a glimpse of what he thought was another kid in a neighboring house. The problem is that household had 2 older boys who had already left for school that day. It took him some time to confirm that someone else was in fact living in that house, and even more time to build up the courage to go over there. In this particular household, he meets Jen, the 3rd child of the family. The differences between these two are staggering. Jen has a computer, TV, junk food, and junk food is illegal here for some reason. She lives a pretty normal kid life. She just doesn't go to school. She even made a chat room for other shadow children with like 1,000 other kids in it. Obviously, this is very shocking to Luke, who had lived his entire life thinking that the TV and the computer could track him. And his family bought into the propaganda that they can find you through a fucking keyboard, and that the population law is good and it's to avoid famine. According to Jen, this is a load of shit, and she starts to organize a rally for shadow children to stand up for their rights. The problem is as the rally approaches, Luke and Jen fight about it. They fight about it because he's too scared to go. This causes Jen to turn her back on Luke. Eventually, Jen does apologize to him and all seems well, but he still won't go to the rally. The day of the rally, Luke goes to Jen's house to try to stop her out of fear that she would be killed by the police. He finds that she is not there, and using the knowledge that she gave him, Luke disables their home alarm and even uses her computer to try to message the other shadow children asking where Jen is. This is where he's confronted with Jen's father, George. The jig is pretty much up at this point, considering Luke has a gun pointed at his face. He has to come clean. Jen's father accepts what Luke is telling him and then tells Luke the truth of where Jen is. Jen is dead. George tells us that he can't take bereavement or even mourn. They have to continue pretending to be the same old family of four they always were. Jen and the other kids at the rally were all shot and killed. All evidence of the rally was washed up before people noticed. As a result, the population police are now monitoring the chat room. Since Luke sent that message, he's in even more danger now. Fortunately, George offers to help Luke get a fake ID so he could leave and live his life. George admits that he does work for the population police and knows more about the law. Basically, they live under a totalitarian government as a result of the famine. I sincerely hope I said that right. The moral of the story is that Jen's father believes that the law is wrong. If the government had better leadership during the famine, none of this would have occurred. Fair. Now, remember when George said the population police were monitoring his computer? It's time for that to be an issue. The police barge into his home, George hides Luke, he has an explanation, he's going undercover to expose illegal children, and he sounds damned confident in doing it. So much so that Luke would have believed his words if he hadn't seen George grieving a moment earlier. Luke now has a choice. He can get the fake ID and leave, or live in hiding forever. Ultimately deciding that he wants to try to make a difference in the world, he chooses to take the fake ID. He is now Lee Grant, a runaway kid that's being sent to a year-round boarding school as punishment. The book ends with an emotional goodbye between Luke and his family, and Luke, now Lee, faces onward to what his life will bring. Both of these books are not happy. That's an ongoing theme for all the books to come. The Battle of Jericho honestly left me gutted. That book is so depressing. It had this ominous vibe to it that just grew and grew until you get to the climax and you're just as heartbroken as the characters are. Which in this case is a good thing. For books like this, I feel like feeling what the characters feel is a sign of good writing with phenomenal character setup. The same can be said about Among the Hidden. The end was bittersweet, but that's how I felt. Luke had to leave his family, which is sad, but at least now he has a chance at a normal life. Now let's ask ourselves, are these books appropriate for 7th graders? I want to say yes. Even though these books are hard to swallow, they are nowhere near as graphic as A Child Called It, and it gets their point across better than The Ringer. The Battle of Jericho is a big slab of anti-hazing propaganda, which when you're getting into those teenage years, you might need that lesson now instead of getting into a situation similar to Jericho and not understanding what's happening. With Among the Hidden, it gives you the message that sometimes life sucks and it's unfair. You can either accept it and hide or fight back. However, choices still have consequences. And I'm pretty sure I had to read this book because we were learning about totalitarian governments. Still don't know if I'm saying that right. I will admit I am thoroughly enjoying this series more than I thought I would. I will be posting one a week throughout January with a pause for some February content I have planned. Until then, remember to drink water and return your library books on time, or else.
We should go.
You can't go out there.
Why not?
It's too dangerous. Someone tried to kill you. Bigby, you can't let her go out there with you. You'd be putting her life at risk.
If Snow wants to come with me, I'm not gonna stop her.
But
we should leave now. You ready?
Yeah.